Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the House Medium, or welcome to the House Medium. I'm Adele Levine. Sorry, who am I? I forgot. Your House Medium, and this is a Reader's Room episode. What that means is people who send in episodes or stories, I should say, that they don't feel totally comfortable either coming on, or the stories were kind of like these short little stories that wouldn't make like a full length story episode. So I put a bunch of them together and I read them in the reader's room. Also, I have my own story that I like to tell, and I'm going to do a new segment of story time with me and of paranormal because I've had some things happen. For those of you who may not be aware, because I don't know if you are or not, I've been posting everywhere, but I am doing a bunch of things this October. One of them is, a couple of them, I'm doing 2 seances here in Burbank in Los Angeles, and I did one last Friday, and it was interesting. I have another one I'm doing this Friday. I'm also going to Utah where I'm doing a seance there and one-on-one readings, which I'm really excited about because I used to do them in Utah all the time. And so now I'm back to doing those as well. And that will be October 25th, 26th, 27th. And the seance is going to be on the 26th. And there's only 14 seats left. I can tell you that they will go fast. And then I'll get emails asking me to add seats, and I will not. And one-on-one readings. Also, I think that's it. That's all, because I don't think I'm going to add another date for the seance here in LA. I am working on doing a special podcast for Halloween, but those of you who are on my Patreon, you might know this already. If you don't, go check it out. But I posted a new class on Spirit Communication Part 1, and I also posted speed readings, which was a nod to Samhain. The speed readings I do every month. For if you're not on my Patreon, this is what it's about. Speed readings, I give a little reading of everybody on my Patreon. If you're in my Sacred Scholar tier, then you get a class every month, and then I'll do a Q&A, live Q&A that I'll let everybody know I'm going live, and you can ask me questions that you have about the class, anything I can help you with. These are not readings. Don't ask me questions about your life because I've had some people sneak into that. This is questions about the class. And then I'll send you the video if you're in the Sacred Scholar tier. Also, if you are my Patreon, then daily I do energy climates. And what that means is I'm telling people the energy I feel around the world that day and to what to expect and what to, look for that day and how to get through it and all of that. And that is what Patreon has to offer. And you also get 30% off of all my readings when you join Patreon. So this month I've been doing a lot of fun stuff. And now we're doing a reader's room. I need your emails though. I need your emails to thehousemedium@gmail. This is how I do this podcast. This is a participation podcast, meaning I need you to come on to my podcast, or at least send in your stories to me so that I can do the podcast with you. And so I need your stories, and I hope that hearing other people's stories will kind of inspire you to send in your stories to me. So let's get to the stories that, before we get to the stories, I wanted to do a little special Adela's Paranormal Stories from the Other Side. That's me talking to you. Adela's Paranormal Stories from the Other Side. Yeah. Okay. So that's me talking to you. Adela's Paranormal Stories from the Other Side. Yes, that's me. So I did a seance. So let's we can add a little background music. I did a seance this Friday. And the thing about when I do the seances is a couple things, couple stories, 2 stories. It's the thing that people don't understand about the seance is that the seance that is different than readings. When I do one-on-one readings with people, Then you tell me who you would like to speak to. You ask to speak to a certain person, and I will communicate with that person for you. That is what a normal reading is like. That's a normal mediumship reading, gallery, salon, medium salon readings that I do. That's how those go. But when I do a seance, this is like for everyone to feel together, to have an experience, to kind of like step into the realm with me. And I kind of want to emphasize that because people don't realize that's what you're signing up for. It's not just me telling you, oh, this person, this person. I can do that all the time. This is for you to experience, so you to can get a feel, see what you feel, see what you see. And people have experienced this past seance. People were feeling poked. People were feeling like the room was starting to feel different. Their emotions were on high. It becomes because I open the gates and I let all of those energies in. Now, this particular seance, I may not do this on the one coming up this week and in Utah, but I kind of let everybody come in, not just the people connected to people in the room. And it got interesting. But prior to the seance, I had this weird experience where somebody showed up that didn't sign up for the seance, and they were like, "Let me in." It was just like an energy, if that makes sense, of feeling like it was an actual person, I should say, not a spirit. And so that energy was there. And then it was just like this energy, even overall, that I felt in the seance, that there were some people there that weren't supposed to be there. That's why it was interesting that that happened prior. They kind of didn't understand, this was like you have to like pay for your ticket beforehand. People can't just show up. That is not how this works. So in the seance, I kind of felt like there was interferences like that happening. And it's probably because I just blew the gates wide open and let whoever come in. The other thing that was interesting is the next day, all of a sudden the lights downstairs, I have like some Halloween lights that you have to turn on, and they are on a timer, and then they turn off. Excuse me. Then they turn off. And I was just sitting there and they just turned on. They're not on a timer to turn on. They're only a timer to turn off. And I thought, well, maybe they turn on sometimes, and I watch them the whole day. The rest of the day, I watch them the next day, nothing. So that was interesting. So when you work with the spirit world, make sure you cleanse before and you cleanse after. And make sure you set ground rules, because that's something I definitely do. Okay, and I do that with all of the things I do. Before my seances, my lips are dry, so if you're watching this, you're seeing me put on lip gloss. I do that before and I do that after. I absolutely always cleanse everyone and put a protective energy around everyone, and I shut it all down. Spirits don't follow you home like the Haunted Mansion says at Disneyland, but they do. You do open yourself up and you start to see more than you were seeing before. All right, you ready for our stories? I'm scrolling. Excuse me, because I have a lot of them. Well, I have 3, but they're kind of long. Okay, so here we go. This is Jacqueline, is the first story. All right, I'm going to get a sip of water because I have a lot of reading to do. I have 2 types of readings, reading words and reading the situation. So if you're new to, I'm just binging. If you're new to paranormal gossip, that's a different segment. If you're new to Reader's Room, I will read the emails and then I'll tell you what I feel happened. Okay. Hey Adela, I have 2 news stories that may pique your interest for a Reader's Room or a house guest opportunity. When I was in middle school, I had checked out a book from the school library. I had finished it and was getting ready to return it, but couldn't find it anywhere. I spent a good 2 hours cleaning my bedroom in effort to find it and had made my bed, a rarity for a 13-year-old me, cleaned under the bed, cleared all the shelves and dusted. The book was nowhere to be found. So I decided to systematically start looking for the book within my room again. I decided to start by looking under the bed just in case. And when I came back up 10 seconds later, empty handed, it was sitting right on top of my perfectly made, as if I'm reading it just like she wrote it, as if staged for a photo. I was amazed as there was no one else in the room and my bed was perfectly clear beforehand. I'm Catholic. We love praying to Saint Anthony when we lose things, and I started praying to him shortly before this book reappeared. At various stages of my life, I have practiced ways or distanced myself from it and still pray to Saint Anthony in a pinch. It seemed to work often, but this was the most extreme of those experiences. Interesting. The second story I have from a few years prior. I was between 8 and 10 years old, and my dad and I were taking some cattle to auction. I grew up in a ranching family. He used it as an opportunity to show me the barn they kept the livestock in. And as we were walking around the catwalks above the pens, I noticed the creepiest black pig with red blood eyes staring right at me. Ooh. Let's read that. Creepiest black pig with red blood eyes staring right at me. Its gaze never faltered, and I stared right back unimpressed. I remember thinking, wow, that's a bit creepy, but then dismissing it as some kind of genetic thing, and I kept on walking. Interesting. Later, I asked my dad why a pig would have blood red eyes, and he said that was impossible. When I've researched whether this can naturally occur, I haven't found any compelling evidence that would suggest that as pigs' eyes would be the blood red color. I realized, oh, the barn's getting crazy. I realized that I was a kid and that my memory can be a little skewed at this point. However, it was a core memory. And I even remember what I was wearing that day. I was old enough to register that it was present and abnormal. I trust my memory from that day, given that an occasion I have thought back to the image experience throughout various points of my life, and I've had a consistent recollection of the event. I have my theories on what it might be, but I'm curious to know what you think. All the best, Jacqueline. So here's the thing, Jacqueline, because each time I read one, I'm going to answer. Here's the thing, Jacqueline. The first one, I definitely feel can happen. Spirits can decide to kind of help you, put something like on your bed, and that can happen. They can move things. I do feel like something kind of helped you out. I feel like it was kind of interesting because it is extreme. I can't say that I see who it was. I'm not really looking for that because there's really no way to confirm it. But if I were to share with you who I see, it does look like an older woman. The older woman looks like she's on your mother's side, and she kind of reminds me of one of those ladies that was very neat and tidy and organized and liked her stuff in a certain way. She wasn't difficult. She wasn't mean or in that kind of way, but she just kind of she looks very she just wasn't very nurturing. You know what I mean? She just kind of reminded me of the type of woman that would be helpful and took care of her family, took care of things, took care of people, but she wasn't overly nurturing. And so that's how I see her. The second story with the pig, the first thing that came to me was that you might have saw that the pig was going to die. Isn't that terrible? Like, it's not like you were predicting death, like you suddenly have this gift where you're big. But I feel like when you saw the big, you almost saw like its demise. That's the first thing that came to me. Like you were like seeing the blood. You know what I mean? So I don't feel like it that does happen, and it can happen like in a fleeting moment, meaning like it happens to people sometimes. If you don't have this ability and you're not aware of it, it can happen in a fleeting moment. So my feeling is that you just kind of in a fleeting moment saw its end. And that's what I see, like you predicted it. So I hope that makes sense. And I know you wrote this all the way back in July and we're in October. And I'm sorry it's taking me so long, but I tend to kind of, excuse me, I'm getting some water. I tend to try to do the reader's room like every few months so people know if I do tell you you're going to be on the reader's room, it could be 1 to 3 months. It won't be longer than 3 months. I don't usually go that long, but I appreciate you sending this in. All right, let's get to the next one. Adela, I thought I'd write in about some spirit I've seen or sensed. Feel free to read these in your reader's room. Unfortunately, none of them are spooky. They did, however, shock me when they happen. The first one takes place. Well, we'll be the judge if it was spooky, you know. The first one takes place hold on a second. The first one takes place early March of July 2016. I was sitting in the living room working on a planner I was procrastinating on for a while. My mom was on the couch in front of me watching TV. Attached to the living room was an office or a den that my dad used as his bedroom. It was getting pretty late, maybe close to midnight. I was finishing up my planner when my dad slid his door open. It was an accordion door, and he stepped out. When I looked up, I saw a shadow figure of a man standing in front of my dad's bedroom. As my dad walked away, they were about average height and slightly thick build. It was like watching TV static in the shape of a person. I stared at it. I couldn't believe it. I love how she says there's not, and I believe this is Anahit. This one, yeah, it's Anahit. I love how Anahit is like, it's not spooky. Um, Excuse me, ma'am. Okay. I stared at it. I didn't believe I was seeing was right in front of me. I can't remember if I looked away or not, but I opened my planner to a page I made to write down any significant memories for the month and write down what I saw. I'm at work now, so I don't have the planner on me now, but I remember that for some reason I thought the person was a blonde, even though I didn't see any part of them. Clearly, they were pure static. Okay. The next event happened when I was 14, 15. My brother shared the master bedroom, which had its own, hold on a second. I gotta adjust some things here for everybody. Had its own bathroom, and when I came out of the shower, I dropped my clothes on the floor in front of me in the little hall that led to the bedroom. After I picked it up, I saw an outline of a spirit. To the right was a window, and the blinds were parted in a way that let the silver light of the moon into the room, and I swear the spirit silhouette was cast in the moonlight. I immediately felt a shock or a spark. It felt as though you could put a hand through me, not through my body where it could come out of my back. It was like if you tried to touch me, you instead fall into me, and it would never end. Like inside me was a portal that spilled into the whole universe. I could feel it all. There was no past, no future, no walls or physical barriers. It felt like every possibility and everything was all undivided as one non-physical thing. Then my senses slowly started coming back. I started to breathe, and a moment later, my brain thought, oh, I wasn't breathing. I started to blink and wiggle my fingers, and a moment later, I realized, oh, I hadn't been moving. There was a pause, and my brain realized, Oh, I hadn't been thinking. Now I could sense the spirit in front of me. I got scared. I started to spot in the front of me where I'd seen it. Then I no longer felt it there. I called for my little brother who was asleep in the bed in front of me. I only moved forward once I sensed the spirit wasn't in front of me. I ran forward. But then I sensed them by the door on my left. Now I was feeling fear running through my arms and legs. I called for my little brother again, and I figured I was on my own. I stared at the door until dear until my dear drowned out something. I think fear drowned out my ability. I think she meant to say to sense the spirit, or maybe it moved again. Once I no longer felt it, I ran to the door, swung it open, and ran down the hall and into my room and dove onto my bed. I always wondered who I'd seen on those nights. I wondered if they were maybe the same person. I love to hear your take on these events. Thank you for reading my email, Anahit. All right, Anahit. This was a cool one. I really liked it. Because I feel like there was a lot more to it. I reread this one with you, like the feeling and the hand and the going through you. So I absolutely felt like you saw spirit for sure, both times. And the description that you had of like you feeling like you're falling into one, that's you. Whenever people say like, how do I see that realm? How do I get to that realm? I always tell people like you got to kind of zone out, go into this other place where you're kind of neither here or there, where you're 1 foot in and 1 foot out. And that's what you were doing. You were literally 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You were in that realm and you were in this realm at the same time. And you were able to kind of see and look into that world, and that's how it feels. I just control it, and I've been doing it for so long I can do it on control, but that's how I feel when I'm reading. I don't feel like I'm thinking. That's why I lose track of time. That's why I time my readings. I don't feel like I definitely know that I'm breathing and things like this, but what you're describing was you were tuning. I feel like the person that you saw, um, when you said that you saw a blonde woman and you saw the shadow, I actually saw a man. So I'm just going to go with what I saw and try to put out like the influence from you. But I saw a man, and I saw a man standing there being very like, I don't know, it actually felt like loving, and it had to do more with your dad. This man kind of felt like he felt connected and loving and was there to kind of let his presence known. I also see him smoking for some reason and having one of those little cups of coffee, those little tiny espresso cups. It felt like he was happy you could see him and you could connect with him. I feel like he's on your father's side, and it definitely felt connected to you guys. I didn't see a woman, um, but the static and all of that, that's very, very much how it works, everyone. When you see, that's energy, it's a frequency. So that's why you didn't see like a whole person and all of that, because you were seeing the energy of somebody. So I feel like when I see, when you're describing, that's a really good way. And that's why, like, even in, the Patreon where I posted the class of spirit communication, I do a little meditation for people because I'm trying to get people to kind of zone out and be in that zone and kind of let go a little bit for a moment. So I absolutely feel that's what was going on. I feel like that's an awesome, awesome experience. And it's good for you to pay attention because it's telling you that you do know how to tune into those things. I understand you were afraid, but that's because you were young, and it totally makes sense. Okay. Great one though. And it was, I'm sure, spooky. Everyone agrees. Okay, so this is like my last one. This is from Stephanie. Stephanie was on my podcast before. She also has done mentorships with me. I'll talk about that at the end here. Hello, Adela. This is Stephanie, the first person you did mentorship with. She was my first mentorship. It's been a while. I'm still at my current NCS job in Scarsdale, and this will end the last day of September. So this is September. She wrote this. I don't remember when anymore, but at least twice before, I think I saw orbs in the baby monitor. I'm staying in the same room as the baby. The first time I saw was pretty sure on an orb zoom in the bottom of the screen that made a sharp turn and left the screen. I think there was two of them. One made like a V shape. I thought I was seeing things at first. The second time was weeks later, where two orbs zoomed past the center of the screen. The center, I think she said, of the screen. The third time was recent as I'm writing this. It seemed this was one closer to the camera and slower. It was already in the middle of the cam when I looked when it moved out of the screen. All of these were fast, like less than a second, and all happened at night while the baby was sleeping already, maybe around 9 p.m. more or less. I have not seen any dust picked up on the cam before or after other these orbs. Is my imagination running wild, or is something hanging around the baby's room? A bit short, but thanks for the reading. Okay, so here's my thing about orbs. So everybody pull up a seat. I think most of the time, my feeling is that orbs, most of the time, is like dust particles, light, and a lot of glitching in the camera most of the time. I don't have any sense this was spirit oriented. When I read this the first time, I felt this way as well. I don't really feel that this was having to do with spirits. Here's why. Most spirits, they don't need to turn themselves into a ball of light. Like, in other words, the static thing that Anahit had in her story is kind of more how that realm tends to work and how you're going to see them. And so I feel like when people are seeing orbs, um, it's very much more having to do with the camera. I don't really count on those orbs. It's not that you can't see orbs, meaning your sight, and you could be sitting there, because I do see those, but it isn't it's not visible to everyone. Does that make sense? And I really don't think a camera would catch it, because I do feel like it's a frequency that most people don't see. It's a frequency. It's a very high end frequency. So I feel like what you were seeing was probably more to do with glitches and things, because I just don't see anything around the baby. And this is a common thing that baby monitors catch a lot of things that people, it's very tricky when it comes to baby monitors, because even sound or visual, because believe it or not, interference can happen from so many places from those. But just my read on it alone doesn't happen to be that. So my feeling to tell everyone is that when you're dealing with things like this, make sure you're like checking the logical explanation to things as well, and not just counting on, you know what I mean? Just like, okay, this is immediately, I'm going to believe there's something paranormal to it. But I just don't see it. And honestly, I feel like most of the things we see on TikTok and Instagram and all this, people have faked. And then the other half of it is just kind of like technical, glitches. Like when I was telling my story about my light going on, I checked to go, is this something that happens? Is this something I'm just not realizing could actually happen with these lights? Maybe I'm just like, reading too much into it, and this is like a common occurrence. I always go with logic first. And when I said, nope, I've had these for a while, they've been on for days, I have to turn them on, they turn off on their own, and then they never turn on again, which is kind of a bummer. And I remember even thinking, I wish they would just turn on and off themselves. They don't. And then that morning they did. So you always check with like, a logical explanation, and just kind of know that, like, unless you're seeing in front of your face, because you're going to see it and it's going to be like a frequency, it probably isn't anything to do with the paranormal world. I'm not saying it never, but this particular one isn't. So these were the stories. This was a short episode. I'm sorry, but I have been putting a lot of content out in these past few other episodes. If you haven't caught up on this podcast, go check out the past few other episodes, because I have had quite long ones in the past couple ones. So this one's just a little short one, a reader's room episode, where I just like catch up on the stories that people said that are either too short to have a full episode, or sometimes people don't want to come on. It's one or the other, and that is what I want to remind everyone, you don't have to come on the podcast, as you can see, to send in your episodes. But yeah, the mentorship. She was my first mentorship. I do mentoring where people who want to work with me one-on-one on their paranormal abilities. Also, I've added some magic to my mentorship because I've been showing people how to do candle magic and other types of magic. And I was like, I should let people know that's something I am mentoring one-on-one with people. When I do mentorship, we do hour sessions. Either you get 2 or 3 package and you get a code and you can book it at your time. This is one-on-one with me. I also want to remind people, because people thought the classes on my Patreon were live. They're not. They're there for you to download. And exciting news for Patreon people, I have now collections. And that means that if you belong to the sacred tier, you can go find all the classes. I didn't know you guys couldn't find the classes, and people let me know, oh no, we can't find the classes. So I created a collections for sacred tier where all the classes are listed in one place. Please talk to me, everyone. Let me know. Give me feedback. I will take in your feedback. If it's something that I can fix and do, I will do it. If I can't, I will tell you, like, listen, there's nothing I can do about it. But I love to hear from everybody. It helps me to improve things more and more. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, I wanted to let everybody know that I am coming up with a way that I want to record me going to a cemetery and do a special episode for Halloween. So that is something I'm working on. I just want it to be better quality than I tried to do this in the past and it didn't turn out the way I wanted. So I'm trying to make sure it's quality before I do it. Thank you all so much for joining a little mini episode. It's not mini, but it's like about 20 minutes shy of what I normally do. I normally do about 50 to an hour. These past episodes have been crazy long because I've had some special guests and everything, but I'd love to have you on. So send in your emails. You hear my call. Please write a review. The reviews have been like stagnant. I'm just asking for you to help me get this podcast still keep growing. I put a lot of work into everything, and I really would appreciate if everybody give me a little something back. Follow yourself, follow no one, listen to your inner voice, and I'll see you soon.